Hello, and welcome back to Owens Bay. I thought we'd do a little flyover here of a part of the map we haven't really taken a look at yet. Sasquatch National Park. I hear the Cascadian government has approved a new highway project through the park, so you can look forward to that over the next few months. Now, before I get into the video here, I just want to make a little disclaimer. This video is not a tutorial on how to create decals for the game. If you want to find out that sort of information, there's the City Skylines modding Discord. There'll be people over there that'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. I'll leave a link in the description for you. This video is more my thoughts and reflections on using AI to help me create custom content for my city, and kind of my thought process and my opinions about what the impact of this is going to be on the game moving forward into the future. I'm quite excited for it. I think this opens up a whole new world of possibilities for a game like City Skylines. Possibilities that were not at all possible just 2 years ago. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and we're just going to come over to our area of focus for this episode, Lower Queensport. Let's get started. Okay, I'm just going to jump right into it. So I'm going to do this as a time lapse, and I'm just going to talk over it. It's much easier for me to organize my thoughts. So yeah, my experience of using AI to generate custom content for my game and what that's like, and kind of a bit of the process of how I've been going about it. This isn't going to be as detailed as I was hoping. There's a lot more to it than I realized, so this is going to be kind of more of just an overview of the whole process. So one of the basic things you could do is use it to generate just straight up images that you include in your game. This building in front of me, I needed a wall mural for it. Now I'm building a city in the Pacific Northwest, so it's really quite cliche, but a wall mural depicting a certain animal is almost required. So I used Midjourney to conjure up that image, and I had to do a few generations to get this the image I wanted. But mural of orcas, it's almost mandatory for a city set in the Pacific Northwest, I think. But pretty easy to do. This is just a straight import into the game and, you know, set it up as a decal. I'm not going to get into the process of making actual decals here, but this is not hard in any way. I did no editing to that image in any way at all. Now, as I go on here, a lot of the images are edited. AI images right out of the box may not be suitable, and you may have to do a bit of creative thinking about how to work with them to get them to work. Wall murals, street art, anything like that, it's pretty straightforward. Now, the biggest issue with AI generated images is text. Now, I started using an AI called Flux AI. It is excellent with text. Right here, I'm going to put up a movie poster. This is 3 separate AI images all spliced together in an image editor. One for the background image and 2 separate ones for the text. One generation for each style of text I was wanting. It's a little hard for an AI to do this all in one go yet, but give it 6 months and it probably will be able to do this just fine. I now have the story element in my city that the movie Power Surge is the #1 movie in Cascadia. And this is what I'm going to try to highlight most as I work through this, is the ability to tell much more complex stories within our cities now. With the custom content we're able to create for ourselves. We no longer have to rely on outside sources to create it for us. We could just go and make it as we need it, as we think of it. And as I work through this, it starts to snowball. By the end of it, I think I've created something like over 60 AI images, decals for the game. This one's quite fun. This one is done in Flux, so got the text perfect. This is story element in the city. This is most of the citizens of the city think of this as, or remember this as, a sleazy nightclub strip joint that's shut down about 10 years ago. But few in the city remember its heyday back in the 1930s, where it was the most popular nightclub in the city. Here's a good example of just generating some, street art. I'm trying to tell a little bit of a narrative here of the city's attempts to kind of revitalize this neighborhood. And by using the elements I'm using, I'm also going to kind of tell the story of how it hasn't really been successful and kind of a bit of a failure. Now, here's a really good example of generating custom text. So custom signage, whatever kind of sign you can possibly think of, you're able to do this now, relatively easy. It's really, your imagination is now what's limiting what you can create for this game. And I think that's something else I need to try to really make people understand. It's really a limitation of your imagination. Now, the signage here is really quite basic, but I mean, literally, if you need a sign, you can now make it and bring it into the game fairly easy. This is pretty basic. This is just used cars, like no big mystery. But there isn't any used car sign in the game right now, so I can make my own. Now, I just went with the colors the AI, when the AI generated the sign, I just used the colors it had, and I decided to use those colors to color the building to match. Here, just a little custom, car loan sign on the edge of the building. Very easy to make. It did take a bit more editing to add the grime and stuff to it to make it something that actually fit in with my scene, but it really wasn't that hard of work. And I'm going to talk a bit about the detailing I'm doing here, just the general detailing as well. it is the slum area of town, so lots of garbage, lots of distressed landscapes. This isn't a particularly large used car dealership, and the fact that that has that really crappy sign on the side of the building for car loans, I wouldn't want to go get a car loan here. I don't think that's a smart idea. Now, ignore City Hall there. I just put it there as I'm just testing it out there. I don't think it's going to stay there, but we'll see. So for this particular neighborhood, I really wanted to have this depopulated kind of feel to it. Like, this is not a place anybody wants to hang out, or, it's a really awful place of town. But I have a lot of empty space. And so I'm going to use a lot of walls and fences to kind of break it up a bit so it's not so monotonous. Also, the ground textures really help with this. Just to clarify here, the ground textures are not AI generated. Those are from Static Noise. You can find them on Sully's Discord, and there's a GitHub link below where you can locate those. They're excellent. They add so much character to the city. Also, I am using some of Sully's graffiti decals and a couple of decals from his Venice Beach pack. I do have my own AI generated graffiti decals. It's just like trying to create enough of them. It's a never ending task. You'll never be able to create enough of them. So sometimes finding something already pre-made, such as Sully's excellent textures and decals, is why recreate something you don't have to? Now I'm doing a lot of panning around here. As a detailer, I'm checking out every angle, make sure things look good. Here's a custom logo for a business I came up with. It's a laundromat. It's really basic. Nice thing about Flux AI, it can do these very, very simple logos, and that's totally usable anywhere else in my city where I want to use it. It's not just specific to this neighborhood. Although if I want something very specific to this neighborhood, that's very easy to make as well. Like I said, my imagination is the only limiting factor here now. This doesn't really have any story to it. It's just a generic laundromat you might find in this sort of neighborhood. Nothing too exciting. I always forget how important power lines are to adding a mood to a neighborhood. This building I come back to, some of the detailing is done off camera. It's very hard to do all the detailing on camera. Sometimes I just think of an idea, it takes 5 minutes to do, and I'm not going to set up everything to record it. So you'll see it in the little cinematic that follows. For this building, I thought it'd be fun to put in a little bit of a dive bar. I am also here fixing some of the ground textures. I know they look kind of patchy and stuff, but they're kind of like a foundation level, and then I put things on top of them. And as you add things on top of them, everything kind of starts to blend together in a nice way. I use these bushes as weeds. They're great for hiding seams and stuff like that. Much the same way you use trees to hide janky terrain. This works. Now, this here is one of Static Noise's decals from his ground decals. But the original was way too big, and I thought it was perfect for sidewalk. So I took it, and I just did a quick edit of it and made it something a little more suitable in size. It's buggy. You'll see it bug out several times here. I don't know what's up. I don't know exactly what's wrong with it, but I still like it so much I keep using it. Now, here I'm making a little dive bar, and I don't know where the name Kitties came from. This is AI generated. This took several attempts, actually, trying to generate a logo here. I remember the AI didn't really seem to want to generate what I wanted, so it took quite a few attempts here. This here is one of Sully's decals from his Venice Beach pack. I thought, this gray on black looked kind of fun. It's pretty subtle, and it's not really that noticeable. Once again, we're in an area, part of the city that's a slum, so lots of garbage. Adding another wall here just to break it up. And it's amazing how adding just a few really low bushes and weeds really kind of just desolate is kind of like this word that comes to mind when I think about it. Now here, this decal is quite interesting. This decal is created with 2 separate AI generated images, one for the logo for the business, another for the distressed texture that went on top of it. And in this case, I specified I wanted a logo in the style, like a 1950s style, because that's kind of the era I imagine for this particular motel. And it's literally been here since the 1950s, and it's obviously fallen into disrepair. It's probably like now just full of, I can't even think of the name of there's a name for those sorts of buildings where it's just like, people, barely able to cling to the bottom of society where they live. I can't think of the name. Once again, here you can see the textures bugging out on me. I'm not sure what's causing it, but I keep using them because they just look so good, and we don't have any good options for sidewalks in the game yet, which is really so annoying. The sidewalks in game are so bland and uninteresting, and these textures add so much quality to them. Anyway, I come back and fix them later, but they do cause me a lot of grief. I do a lot of jumping back and forth here. When I'm detailing, it's kind of like I'm thinking of the whole, whatever area I'm detailing, I'm kind of thinking of it as a whole piece. So a lot of times I detail up a section, I move on to something else, and then something like I get this aha moment. I'm like, oh, I need this back here, and then I go back and do it. So there's a lot of back and forth as I kind of like think about the entire neighborhood as a whole. Now, for this build, the neighborhood is just this stretch of road. I don't go into too much detailing in the neighborhood behind it. It's more or less the backdrop for the scene I'm creating right now. Okay, this is just like an example of some of the signage you can use. Like, of course, I'm in a distressed, impoverished area, so yeah, the businesses are closing up, so going out of business signs. And I can make them exactly the way I want them. I can make them look exactly the way I want. It's great. I'm just putting a pretty simple parking lot here. And sometimes you don't need anything AI generated. Sometimes the assets that are in the game work just fine, as I'm doing here with the signage that's available within game. It just frames off this area nicely, makes it a little more visually interesting. And you'll see later on, I come back and I can add even more to this to even make it even more interesting. This one's quite fun. This is, I think, maybe 5 different AI generated images all compiled together. Several for text, one for staining, the other for the background. I accidentally also created a personality of Madame Cleo, which now I have to kind of think of a backstory for her in the city. But that's part of the fun, or at least that's what I find fun in this game. Creating the entire story behind the city, I find immense fun in this. Now, this is just like an old ad from the 1930s, specified when generating the logo. I did specify a 1930s style logo. It will do it in whatever style you can think of, whatever country you're in, whatever year you're in. The AI can do that for you. This is pretty much just a standard straight up mural. I think this is Mid-Journey for this one. I'm thinking of for an idea here, although at this point of the build, I'm not quite ready for it yet, so I'll have to come back to that. Now, I found these custom assets on Sully's Discord. I do apologize. I can't think of the guy's name at the moment. They're on his Discord. I don't know how available they are. They're not on the mod store. And we desperately need assets like this. This is perfect. Unfortunately, they don't work with the line tool, so I had to hand place them. But it's a small area, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. I think a lot of creators are holding off on putting stuff up in the mod store right now. They're waiting for the asset editor to come out. So there are things available. There are things around that are available that are just not up on the mod store yet. Give it some time. I'm sure most of this stuff will eventually find its way there. I'm using the surface decals here to kind of like suggest the foundations of buildings that used to exist. And a little bit of staining just to try to blend it all together. Right here, I'm going to create a little unauthorized flea market. Being the slum area of the city, probably most items in this flea market are stolen. I know Sully has people now as props. I'm a little reluctant to dive into that quite yet, but this would certainly be a spot where that would definitely enhance the scene quite a bit. But I'm not really quite ready to dive into that kind of modding myself. I do put a couple of invisible pedestrian paths through here just to encourage some people to cut through it. A few people do, but it's a little too sparse. Also, some people on the basketball court would probably be a nice touch as well. Random graffiti, some of it's mine, some of it's Sully's. I think you can recognize Sully's if you're familiar with his work. If you find it on the mod store, it's Sully's. And just so people know, I do have a couple of mods up on the mod store myself, a couple decal packs, crumbling walls and rust decals. Both of those decal packs were created with AI. More things you could do with it than just generate images for your city. You could use it to create custom textures, custom surfaces. And like I said, your imagination is the only limiting factor here now. Now I picked up this trick from Canadian Moose Plays. I've seen a few other creators use it now too, just sinking a barrier into the ground to create these parking bumpers. Great idea. Adds just that little extra bit of detail that really sets off the spot. I forgot to mention, some of the graffiti decals here are also by Static Noise. His are quite good because they're very generic and fit in anywhere, and you can mix and match them. And yeah, they're quite nice. Here I'm struggling to try to remove one of these glitchy decals I put down. And right now I'm going to put in basically the remains of a destroyed building. The property values are so low here that it's not even worth the effort to clean it up. They just put a fence around it and forget about it. Right now I'm putting up some AI generated posters. I think we'll get a better view of them a little later. They're quite easy to make. Everything on them is complete gibberish. They're just nonsense, but from a distance they look so good, especially when you pack them in like a lot of them. And there's some examples of that coming up. Right here I'm going to turn this into a little local coffee shop. Cascadia has its own coffee chain, Brewbucks. The AI came up with the image of the deer here on the logo, and I thought that was really quite clever, so I went ahead and used it. Sometimes you're surprised by what the AI can actually generate for you. It will come up with an idea where you go, oh my god, that's so clever, I'm going to use it. Other times you have to kind of hold its hand and really direct it to exactly the image you're looking for. Now here I'm going to turn this into just like a really rundown restaurant. Now Lucifer's House of Heat is actually a real restaurant in the real world. This logo, though, is completely fabricated by AI. It bears no resemblance to the actual location. I just like the name. I think it's fun. And in this case, I didn't like the background, so I just deleted it and I just used the lettering, and it works okay. It's probably not the best example, but it's good enough. And once again, I'm putting on those sidewalk textures. I'm so desperate for good looking sidewalks. These are perfect. They're cracked. They have the lines. They have little weeds on them. They even have a little edge where, you know, like between the road and the sidewalk. They're great. Unfortunately, they don't work on curved surfaces, so that's annoying. Now I'm just gonna dirty up this parking lot a little bit and add a bunch of cracks and stuff just to give some more interior. So those blocks are pretty much where I'm going to focus most of my detailing. I am going to do a bit more detailing around it, but this is, I think it's about 3-4 blocks here. This is the main focus for the detailing for this particular neighborhood. This is pretty fun. I came up with the name for this for a business, an old business, something that's long gone from the city. So Wellington's is a department store chain from the 1950s. No longer, it's probably went bankrupt in the early 2000s. This is by far my favorite. An old smoking advertisement from the 1970s. It's 3 different AI generated images, one for the background, one for the logo, and one for all the stress texture that went on top of it. First National Bank, I don't really have a history or a story for it. It might have been a bank that went under during the stock market crash of 1929. Payne's Hardware is also another business long gone, but an echo of it still remains within the city. And just a few more old advertisements. Now, yeah, this can greatly enhance your ability to tell a very unique story that only exists for your city and no other city in the game. Like, no other player or creator will have a city with the same history or backstory as yours. You're able to control those details now, which I think is quite exciting. Just some more random street art. I didn't really know where to put it, so it kind of got stuck there. It might not be the best placement. I do kind of have difficulty finding locations for all this stuff. It's hard to. I want a location where it's going to be in a part of the city that actually gets seen. So I put it over here. I think this might be a good location from it. Now this isn't in a bad part of town. This is like hip coffee shop eventually, and there's no reason why these decals need to be just used in the bad part of town. All parts of the city have history attached to them. This building has part of it. I do move the cigarette ad over to the building above it. I think it looked a little better over here. This is one of the first AI advertisements I made for the city. This was done in DALL-E. I don't really like DALL-E all that much. It was when I did that ad, it was probably the best one available, but I think Flex AI is far better than it now for generating, especially advertisements, logos, text, anything like that. Some more random street art. Okay, I'm going to get a little cheeky here, but I'm including this just kind of giving an example of, when you kind of become really imaginative about what you could do here, you could definitely have some fun. Mindy Mansfield is another personality in the city. I haven't really talked about her story too much. She's like a high-end realtor in the city. I gotta redo her advertisement, so it's not very good. Squatches was a fun toilet paper brand that came up. I unfortunately don't like the way the logos or decals bleed through on billboards, so it kind of limits where I can put them. This is another one I did early on, and to be honest, I don't like it. I think I might try to redo it again. It's just a little over the top. It doesn't really fit anywhere in the city. Everywhere I try to put it, it just looks awful. And now it's just some basic detailing here. This is the transition from downtown proper into Lower Queensport. And in the transition, houses and buildings in here are still a nice place to live, and a bit of effort's done to give them some personality. For some reason, the color of that building really was annoying me. Okay, here's some of Static Noise's graffiti decals. These are great because they're generic enough that they can go practically anywhere. I will say with AI, you can make your graffiti say whatever it is you want it to say, and keep that in mind. So here's some more of these posters. I did them as little groups. If people want to talk about the prompting and stuff, I'm more than happy to do it. It's just, I found trying to talk about it while I'm doing this video, it's just too much all to do all at once. So, but there is some strategies to use to prompt the AIs to get images that are usable in game, or at least makes them easier to edit to use in game. Very unfortunate that in this day and age that if you are trying to build a realistic representation of a large urban center, you're almost required to include a tent city. I think that says quite a lot about the current state of our world, and it's very unfortunate. But if you're going for realism, it's really something you gotta think about a bit. The temptation to cover everything in graffiti is really strong, and putting it everywhere would just be way, way too much. And I'm still struggling with these sidewalks. These trash decals for the ground, I find them not too useful. They're just too small, but the cardboard one is great. It is large enough to be actually seen. One problem of having so many decals is the menus become absurdly long. So there are some practical limitations to think about with these things. Also, how many of these can you possibly load into the game before you cripple the game engine? That's something else that I don't have an answer for. I'm really unsure how far you could take this before you basically bring the game engine to a crawl. I still haven't learned this trick of getting things to stick to fences. Okay, I think we're coming to a close here. I hope that gives you a basic idea of how this works and what the possibilities are. I think you should look at this as possibilities and not as think of it as I think the best is to think of it as possibilities. I mean, I know other people are pessimistic about AI. I'm not one of them. I'm very optimistic. And the cinematic that follows here, I think really will drive home the point of what's actually possible now. And I'm very excited for the future of this game and the creations people are going to make in the future. Okay, that's it for this episode. I hope you found it really interesting. I am really quite excited about the possibilities here. I think this is going to open up a whole new world of city building for everyone, hopefully. Like I said before, I'm very optimistic about what the future holds here. I know other people are not so much. But I'm really interested in hear your comments. I want to hear feedback about this. What does everybody think about using AI in this way to enhance our gameplay and enhance the stories we're able to tell? Please let me know. I am interested in that conversation. But for now, I think I've had a little too much of the city, and I think it's time to take a little break. So I think the next few episodes of Queensport, we're going to go explore some of the other areas on the map and maybe build out a few small towns and start developing the region as a whole. I've been neglecting it all this time, and it's really time to get back at it and just fill in the rest of the narrative for this region. If you have stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you found anything of use of this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. I do appreciate everyone's support. Once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.